The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still, still waters. His goodness restores my soul.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another prayer breakfast. Another week has gone by and it's time to gather again on a Friday morning to pray together, to remember God's faithfulness to us and to lift up to him our concerns and the concerns of those whom we love. And so I'm going to start by lighting a candle, as I always say. Nothing magical about this, but it just allows our troubled spirits to calm down for a moment, to remember that God is with us, that his presence fills my room and your room, wherever you are, and that the darkness will never ever put out the light of Christ. The light is stronger than the darkness and banishes it. I hope you enjoyed that little montage at the beginning of this video. It had two purposes really. The first one was to remind you all what an amazing community we are in Salem, what wonderful times we have shared together, so many things we have to give thanks to God for. And so to remember that these times will come again. We will be able to meet again in Salem and rejoice in being together. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. But the other reason for having that montage was that today's verse comes from the 23rd Psalm, which is the psalm that you've just heard sung. And it is Psalm 23 verse 4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So let's start with a moment of quiet. And now perhaps you'd like to listen as I read this psalm to you. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. I bet you've heard that song loads of times. If you are of a certain age, you will have learnt it at school. And one of the things I love about going to visit older people sometimes in old people's homes is that when I start saying the words of the 23rd Psalm, they will join in. Like the Lord's Prayer, it is something that's been very precious to God's people through the centuries. And it's got this beautiful picture, isn't it, of God as our shepherd looking after his sheep. And it says right in the first line, I shall not want. Now, what does that mean? What that means is I'm not going to lack anything that I need. And then the psalm goes on to describe some of the things that God provides us with. So green pastures, well, you know, if you're a sheep, green pastures means food. It means all the physical needs that you have. And then there's water to drink. But also he makes me lie down. And so there's rest. and he restores my soul. So there's restoration. And then he leads me in right paths for his name's sake. So I'm no longer confused about which way to go or what I should do, because God himself is guiding me. He's providing for my every need. And then we come to the verse that we're looking at in this period, when we're looking at verses about fear. And the psalmist says, even though I walk through, now some translations have the darkest valley. You may be more familiar with the one that says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And we have seen this time and time again in our study of passages which tell us not to be afraid. God doesn't promise us that we can escape all evil. God doesn't promise us that we can escape all fear. But what he does promise us is that no matter how tough things get, he will never abandon us. And so we don't actually need to be afraid, because God is with us. He will walk with us through the toughest times, and the rod and the staff, the symbols of the shepherd, will comfort us. And not just that, but on the other side, once the crisis is over, once the fear has gone, once the suffering is done, God promises us good things. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. And not only will we experience goodness and mercy, but what greater promise is this than we shall dwell in the house of the Lord our whole life long. So let's take a moment now to pray, just having been encouraged by the words of that psalm. I invite you, first of all, to thank God. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, I suggest that you just stop the video, and in that pause you thank God for as many things that you can think of. The Lord, your shepherd, who makes sure you don't want, who makes you lie down in green pastures, who leads you beside still waters, who restores your soul, who leads you in the right paths. Thank God. And when you're done thanking God, I suggest that you spend a bit of time asking God for help. I suggest that you pause the video and you bring to God all the things that you are afraid of, whatever the valley of the shadow of death looks like for you, what situations you are afraid of right now, and bring before him also all those you know and you love who need God's comfort at this particular time. Those whose lives feel very short of goodness and mercy and blessing. So let's do that now. And once you've done that and restarted the video, I would like to invite you to pray with me the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I hope you have a good weekend. We have our Sunday services as usual on Sunday. If you're watching this on Friday the 2nd of April, which is when it's being recorded for. And I look forward to seeing you as we worship together this weekend. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again to these doors. Amen.